Hello, welcome everyone. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. As people are trickling in, take some time to rename yourself. You can hit those three little dots in the corner of your screen and put your name, your pronouns, and your chapter. Feel free afterwards to also drop that information in the chat. We are going to get started here very shortly. Welcome again if you're just joining us. Take some time to rename yourself, your name, your pronouns, and your chapter. Good to see everyone. And then after you've renamed yourself, feel free to drop your stuff in the chat so that folks can say hello. We can see who's joining us tonight. We've got quite the crew already. We've got some folks from North Alabama. Welcome. Good to see you. Love it. Who else is joining us tonight? Make sure that you're sending your chat to everyone so everyone can see it. We have Bob from Rochester. Hello. Oh, great. They're all coming in at once. Hello, Ryan Inland Empire. Tom. Hello. Got Birmingham in the house. Hello. Got some YDSA folks. Great. Love to see it. We have Miami, Central Jersey. We got some Texas folks. Hello, Serena. Good to see you. Got some more Texas folks, Indiana, Houston. Awesome. We've got a lot of folks coming in, a lot more Texas. I'm biased, I'm from Texas, so I'm gonna call out the Texas. Got some Iowa City, mid-Missouri. Hello, welcome. Awesome. Again, if you're just joining us, make sure to rename yourself. You can hit those three little dots, your name, your pronouns, and your chapter so folks know where you're from, who you're talking to as we get started on this call. Hello, we've got some Orange County, mid-Missouri. And yeah, make sure to introduce yourself in the chat as well. Awesome. Welcome everyone. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get us started. Keep introducing yourself in the chat. Definitely want to see who all is joining us tonight. Tonight's call is going to be focused on how your chapter can do effective strike solidarity work, understanding our role as DSA, some do's and don'ts, and how to receive additional support from our organization as the strike wave continues. So again, if you haven't already, make sure you rename yourself with your name, your pronouns, and your chapter. And in the meantime, I'm going to review our agenda. We'll be talking about DSA's role in this work, planning out our presence on the picket line, some compliance questions, how to do this work in order to build DSA. And then after the call, we'll also stay on and do a 30-minute Q&A. So jot down questions as you get them and feel free to stay after and join us for that Q&A if you have any pressing questions. As a reminder, we are all comrades here, so please be mindful to respect the facilitators, us four lovely ladies, and each other. Feel free to hype us up in the chat, but save your questions for the Q&A at the end and limit any side conversations. We will be using the chat to drop important links, like the one that we're about to drop below, the Strike Solidarity Survey, super important, and I'll explain that here in a second. And we want to make sure everyone gets the information that they need, and we will be using that chat to make sure to disseminate that information. So let's go ahead and get started. My name is Christian Hernandez. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a recently re-elected member of the National Political Committee, or the NPC. The NPC is committed to supporting chapters engaging in strike solidarity work in coordination with the DSLC, our labor commission, the national body that oversees labor work, and with our amazing DSA staff organizing team. And in order to do that, we have a survey for chapters to fill out. That was a link that was shared just shortly, just a little bit ago. And that link will get dropped in the chat. And if you are a chapter leader, or even if you're on this call and not in chapter leadership, make sure to talk to your leadership before you fill it out. Make sure y'all are on the same page about the questions we're asking so we avoid any confusion. But please be sure to fill it out so we are aware of what work and efforts are happening in your area. If your chapter is thinking about doing strike support, let me make the case for why y'all should, and especially if there is a strike happening in your area. We need to support strikes as DSA because people are fed up. From mine workers in Virginia, nurses in Massachusetts, to sanitation workers in New Orleans, the working class is fed up. Many of us have not seen this type of labor militancy on this scale in our lifetimes. The last time I personally remember seeing this kind of a wave was striking teachers just a few years ago. A recent poll indicated that 52% of Americans making less than $25,000 a year said they would support a strike at their job. Now, we know that we can't count on polls as direct indicators of what will happen, but y'all can feel it, can't y'all? After 2 years of being left to die during a deadly pandemic, forced to return to work with limited protections, and made to act like everything is just going back to normal, the boss has the audacity to act like we are asking for more than we deserve. And we know why, despite the popular sentiment of being fed up, of dreading the time that you give to your job, that we are not seeing this huge segment of the working class on strike. And it's not because we are outnumbered, but because we are out-organized. People want a union, even if they don't realize that's what they need. People want dignity. And as socialists, we understand the importance of democracy in the workplace, of being the protagonist in your life, and we need to support workers in their fight for agency. Kellogg's workers and John Deere workers are dealing with companies who have made it clear they're hunkering down just as we enter the holiday season. The fight won't get easier, but the struggle will be easier to bear if workers all over the country feel supported by their local community and by their local DSA. Because capitalism has pit us against each other, solidarity does not always come naturally. While grateful, some workers get confused as to why DSA has shown up to stand on the picket line with them. Last week, I drove 6 hours to Coffeyville, Kansas to stand on a picket line. Could not have picked a worse day, heavy winds and cold rain, but our group made sure to talk to the workers about the power that they have collectively, the lengths that John Deere will go to give them less than they deserve. It's nothing more bonding than talking shit about your boss, and how their fight connects with workers' fights everywhere. We want to build a lasting and sustained reputation for DSA as an organization that fights side by side with workers at these important sites of struggle. Strikes are how we take power back from the capitalist class, and strike solidarity campaigns are how we engage the broader working class to join our socialist organization. There are opportunities to build reputations and relationships and give workers the choice to act collectively toward a better world. We can make sure that Striketober, Strikesgiving, Strikevember, whatever you're going to call it, is a reminder to corporations all across the country that it is thanks to the working class, thanks to our labor, that the world keeps going. But we can only win if we fight. And it's up to us to make clear what our options are for winning. Join a picket line, join a union, join DSA. I'm going to pass it over to Laura, who's going to brief us on how we walk the talk on the picket line.
Thanks, Christian. Great. Okay, so the most important thing you can do for strike support is to go to the picket line. You can't do picket line support from the sidelines. So if you take away anything from this call, it's go to the line. And when you do, you need to talk to workers who are on strike. I know that that can be kind of intimidating because you feel like, oh, I don't know these people. I'm just here to support. What do I say? But don't just stand on the sidelines. Don't just hold the sign and then go home. You need to talk to people. So here's some suggestions for what to say. You want to treat this like an organizing conversation, do a lot of listening, and these are the questions that I recommend you ask. So first, what's your name? Do you work here? What's your job? And treat them like a real normal person who you need to get to know. And when they say the answers to these questions, remember the answer. You can ask them, how long have you worked here? How have things changed? And that'll give you a sense of what their workplace issues are. You can ask, why did you decide to go on strike? How are you feeling about the strike? Might be great, might be not great. And you should be prepared to sympathize with them if that's the case. And then of course, ask, how can we support you? Next slide. So when you hear the answers, make sure to listen to people's responses. Remember people's issues and their needs, because if you can prove to people later that you were listening, that'll make a huge difference. And empathize and sympathize, even if you hear sentiments you have mixed feelings about. That happened on the Nabisco picket line, for example, people talking about like American jobs or Buy American. You might have some political issue with what you hear people say, but it's really important that you take it back to their fundamental problems, which are working class problems, which is everyone needs a job to survive. And of course, Bring energy when you talk to people. Cheer at honking cars. Dance to the music. Wave signs with spirit. Be happy. Share good news and scuttlebutt. Did you hear something about scabs? Did you hear something about another strike going on? You know, whatever it is, make it so you are a positive presence on the picket line. And when you're there, make sure to identify leaders. And this could be staffers, this could be elected leadership, or it could be unelected leaders. And so here are some questions you can ask to try to figure out who are the leaders among the strikers. You can ask, who can I talk to about bringing supplies? What should I bring? This is really important because not every picket line just wants a box of donuts. In fact, most don't, so it's good to ask what you should bring. You can ask, what are the picket locations and times? Who can I talk to about the best time and place to bring people? Because they might need people at a particular like out of the way place or at a early time in the morning or something like that. You can ask, are there any stewards here? It's important to meet them. And in general, workers will orient to who's in charge, and it's important to know who do people on the line see as a leader, and it's important to introduce yourself to that person and ask how you can be most helpful. So how do we represent DSA, since we're all members of DSA? How do we represent DSA when we're on the line? The best way to do that is by making relationships with the workers. So here are some things that I think you should say. My name is blank. I'm in DSA, and I'm a member of your union if you're a union member. And you can say, we are so inspired by your bravery. And be honest, speak from the heart about this. Like, why are you happy that these people are going on strike? Why are you there? Remind them that not a lot of people get to see strikes. Not a lot of people get to do what they're doing. And so really show them why you're so happy to be there. You can say, I hope you will support me and my coworkers when we go on strike. This is really important because it establishes that solidarity is a two-way street. And I guarantee you that if you're there and you're supporting them and you say this, they will say, hell yeah, we'll be there. And of course, you should say, DSA really wants to support you because, and this is an opportunity to talk about our values as socialists, about we support you because you are working class warriors, because we believe in a strong labor movement, because we know if you win, you'll raise the standards for the whole city, for the whole county, for the whole nation in working conditions. This is a chance to talk about why it is important that they are striking for you as a socialist and how that connects to the broader class struggle. So also important to remember, don't come to sell DSA. Focus on the strike. And I'm not saying don't ever recruit union members to DSA, absolutely not. I think we should be doing that, but we need a relationship first. And so don't make recruitment and selling DSA your focus. Focus on the struggle right in front of you. Once you have a rapport with people, then you can get workers' phone numbers or connect with them on social media. And you need to do this in order to follow up later. Chat with people about the strike, send them the pictures you took, and maybe even invite them to a DSA meeting to talk about their strike and let them ask DSA members for support. And I think Emily's going to take it with getting to the picket line.
Yes, thank you. So Laura laid out like what to kind of, oh gosh, so sorry. What to do when you're on the picket line, but if you're a chapter leader and you're planning strike support, what do you do in order to ramp up? And oh, sorry, my name is Emily Shireman. I am with, I use she, her pronouns. I'm with Chicago DSA. There's a lot of things you can do to kind of prepare your chapter for a strike or when a strike is going on to get them out there. I think that during a strike or leading up to a strike is a very good opportunity. It's an extremely important time for internal political education for all pieces of DSA work, electoral work, any of it, to talk about labor, talk about the importance of labor, talk about the importance of strikes and what it means to go on strike, really. So I think that, a very good tool when it comes to, both turnout, but then also, keeping your chapter ready for the next strike is to, go to each piece of your chapter's work, whatever it is that they do, and to lay out for them what it is that is so, how does labor tie in? How does the specific workplace? If it's a hospital, there's tie-ins to Medicare for all. If it's, there's tons of kind of connections you can make between whatever it is that is going on and the different parts of your chapter's work. So I think that's a really good way to talk about labor with people who probably don't hear a lot about labor, but then also to get different working groups to maybe like organize their own turnout. Okay, maybe the strike's been going on for a long time. Maybe it's hard to get people who aren't labor people, who haven't been out there yet, out there. Okay, we're gonna do one day that's like, this is the, the canvassing group or whatever it is, a committee. We're all going out together on this day. I think it could be a very useful way of looking at it. Another thing is to, as a strike kind of goes on and as energy is getting lower, both for the workers and for the DSA members, is to constantly deepen your bench by finding and educating people that you'll call picket captains. Like a picket captain is just a person who agrees to be kind of like the DSA point person on a picket line. That's all. It's to just be there at a certain time. Direct other DSA members to go and talk to them, but then also I think a very useful part of this structure is not only that it gives everyone is sure that somebody from DSA is going to be at the picket at this time, but then also there is a point person who you can ask, how are things going? Really good way to transmit information. Strikes are very hectic. Things happen quickly. Things are rumors. Rumors are awesome. Gather all of them that you can. But definitely great to have picket captains, to kind of be the entrance of information. And then I think it's also important as a strike goes on, maybe some other things are happening, people are talking about it less, is to keep people in the know about what is going on. Some people are hesitant to get involved because they don't know enough about what is going on. They think they need to know something before they go. You don't need to know anything, but it is great to keep the chapter in the know a few different ways. I think like a spoke or something like that. There's a rally, or Wednesday is Solidarity Day. Everybody, we'll see you at these times at this place. And I think when it comes to the more, I guess the minutia of what is going on, when did they last bargain? How did it go? What does it look like? How is everything going? What big news events? Who's the target? For like, who are the workers targeting to put pressure on to get them to the bargaining table? I think newsletters is a really great way to do something like that. It can be more long form, you can get more information out, but then also it makes use of more people's strengths. We have a lot of within each one of our chapters, we have people with we have different pieces of work that people want to work on. I think those can tie into a strike. Then I also think that, people's strengths. Oh, I really love making, graphic design things on Canva, which is true. I absolutely do. But if somebody wants to do that, give them that task. Say you're gonna make the every night or whatever, you're gonna make the graphic design thing that is going to say, where the action is or what time the picket lines are at. Somebody who likes to write can write a newsletter. I think there's something for everybody to do. If you can't get to the picket line physically, that can still, increase your chapter's turnout on the actual picket line. So Laura is going to talk next about rallies and protests. Yes.
Okay, so once you've been to the line, you've talked to some people, you might be able to organize or participate in a rally. So I know most of you probably have some idea of how to organize a rally. I'm not going to get into that, but I'll just give you some specific tips for doing it as strike support. And it does make a difference how big the union is. For small unions, it would really make a difference to them if you offer to organize a community rally if one isn't already planned. And good chances are they haven't planned anything like that for smaller locals. And even big unions may not have thought of that, and so it's okay to offer, but better chance that they have already planned to do some sort of rally. And so with bigger unions, you might want to offer to do turnout for the rally that they've already planned and ask to have a DSA speaker. Really important. And again, it's really important to be visible as DSA, using your swag, bringing your banners, because we want people to know who it was that made a difference in their strike. Do we want them to go home and wonder why so many people were there? Maybe it was just the Democratic Party that did it for them. No, we want it to be very clear that it's a working class socialist organization that can make community solidarity so successful. And then of course, whether you're hosting a rally yourself or just helping out with one that the union has planned, you want to invite community partners. So this could be reaching out to unions that like your chapter members are like members of or affiliated with, or could be Jobs with Justice, could be Sunrise, could be Council of Black Trade Unionists, could be AFL-CIO, whatever other community partners that you work with, reach out to them and tell them how important it is to turn out to strike support. So let's talk about some direct actions that we could do to ramp things up when the strike really gets going. Some common tactics that we use to support unions are blocking deliveries or arrivals. This could be deliveries of people like strike breakers, like standing in their way. In Portland, we did a lot of scab walk of shame actions where when strike breakers arrived to the facility, we stood in front of them and shouted shame and scabs go home to make it as painful as possible for the scabs to do their jobs. You could do a wake-up call, meaning if you figure out where the scab's staying, you can disrupt their sleep and make it really painful for them and make it clear that you're protesting the fact that they are ruining the strike and taking a good working class union job. You can do an occupation or a sit-in. This could be of a company headquarters or some other important location. And the intel for that, like if you are trying to figure out, okay, what would a good location for that be? Well, you probably could get that intel from talking to workers. Again, that's why going to the picket line and talking to workers is so important. Another one you could do is picketing outside of a manager's office or home. And that is especially useful for in the times of managers working from home during COVID. That's probably where they're going to be. So whenever you consider doing a direct action or protest like this, make sure you know your rights and you don't take risks alone. Make sure you have a good group of people who are on the same page about what you're going to do if police arrive, or how are you going to take care of each other. So consider taking risks together as a group and make them calculated risks. And whenever possible, make your actions visible to workers for a morale boost. I cannot emphasize how important this is. when we did our strike support for the Nabisco workers in Portland, they, I think, were at a really low morale point, but we stood in front of buses and trucks to yell at the drivers to go away, and they drove away. And when someone like steps in front of a bus for you, you're like, okay, wow, this is cool. Like, it makes people feel like their fight is worth fighting and they want to go on. Like, if some stranger does that for them, it really changes people's consciousness. And over the course of the strike, you probably are going to want to escalate the actions, but be really attuned to how workers feel about it. And that's why you want to have those relationships so that you can be checking in with workers about the level of heat that you're putting on the company. And keep in mind that staff and higher elected leadership may take a more conservative approach than rank and file members, and that can create some political conflict, so be prepared for that. But when in doubt, honor the wishes of the workers. That might mean not doing something you wish you could do because it would be so cool and badass. It also might mean doing something that you know is going to make a particular person upset, but we are there to support the rank and file, period. So, again, a word about DSA visibility. So DSA visibility protects strikers from legal action. You may not know about this, but community members exercising our First Amendment rights are less restricted than union members trying to abide by oppressive labor laws. They're also usually worried about the risk of injunction, and people who aren't in the union, we don't have to worry about that. So when you publicize events, keep this in mind. Bosses are more than willing to get aggressive in filing lawsuits to try to impede strikes and solidarity work, so don't give them easy ammunition by implying any action beyond free speech protests. So if you're going to do a direct action, make sure you say it is a protest, because you have the First Amendment right to protest scabs or bad bosses or whatever it is. I think I'm gonna hand it off for some financial compliance.
Sorry, it took me a second to unmute. You'd think I'd be better at it by now, but that's where we are. So unfortunately, our compliance manager on staff couldn't be here, so you're stuck with me. My name is Amy Zachmeyer. I use she, her pronouns. I'm based out of Houston. I'm the organizing manager on DSA staff. And I asked Brandon to be here, and he couldn't because it's his birthday. And so here I am. But if you take anything away from the things I'm about to say, I want it to be that you should check this resource, which I will put in the chat in just a moment, or email compliance@dsausa.org if you have any inkling that you might need to be checking on the ways that you're spending your money or following the law. So now that I've said that, let me go into like the longer, more detailed part that Brandon wrote up for me. The recommended way DSA chapters can help unions raise money for strike funds is by sharing a link to contribute directly to the union strike fund. Since no money would be coming under DSA control, your chapter would not need to keep track of and report those funds. If your chapter is separately incorporated and raises funds into your own bank account in order to contribute to a strike fund, or if your chapter contributes a strike fund out of your general treasury, we recommend that you keep that activity plus any electoral activity under 40% of your chapter's total activity. So for some chapters that don't have massive budgets, if you give $500 of your chapter's money to a strike fund, that might actually be 40% of your total activity for the year, and you would be really messing with your 501c4. Contributions to union strike funds by 501c4 social welfare organizations are permitted, but since strike funds benefit a specific group of people as opposed to the public at large, those contributions count against our primary purpose activity for IRS reporting purposes. Examples of primary purpose activity include public education and organizing around issues and policies. Electoral campaign activity counts against our primary purpose activity in addition to contributions to union strike funds. In order to retain our tax exempt status with the IRS, we must keep all non-primary purpose activity below 40% of our total activity, and separately incorporated chapters must do that as well. For more information, you can review our resource, Chapter Contributions to Unions, and for questions or clarification, you can email compliance@dsausa.org. Christian has linked the resource, and I will again link this email address that is on the screen. The response time on that is, from my understanding, pretty good. I've always had chapters that have reached out to me as their organizer, tell me that they've heard back from Brandon really, really quickly, and that he's been very, very helpful. He really does go in and research issues, especially when they're nuanced. And I don't know about y'all, whenever I was a co-chair, we could not afford just to have a lawyer on retainer to answer our questions. And so I just don't want y'all to forget that it's really, really, really a good idea to email compliance if there even just might be a question. Because there were plenty of times when I was a co-chair and I was like, oh, it's probably fine, but let me ask. And then I'd be like, oh, not fine at all, actually. So make sure that you ask. If y'all have any questions about that, I would definitely ask them toward the end, because I see that people have put a couple things in there, but we'll do Q&A on this at the very end. That being said, I'm going to go ahead and pass it to Emily to talk to you about how to build your DSA chapter.
Yes, thank you. That was extremely useful and really important, because I think that when it comes to supporting a strike, you don't want to get mired down in money things when you could be using all that time and energy to do other organizing. So I'm going to talk first about supporting other chapters. So strikes are pretty rare still, even now. And these big, nationwide strikes, we have, there's a lot of press about it. There's a lot of people talking about it. Everyone is rightfully very excited about it, but how do you support it from afar? And I think that this can be difficult because so much of strike support is being there physically. But I don't think that that means that there's nothing you can do. It just makes it more difficult. I think that one of the probably the most powerful tools that you can do, that you can use, is to perhaps find a unionized workplace or a similar type of work that the strike is going on with in your chapter. Like, there's a nurses strike going on in this place at this time. Are your nurses organizing around it? Can you help them with that? What kind of solidarity can they show, union to union? If it's possible for you to help your chapter members visit, awesome. I think that that's probably the optimal way, is to organize a trip to actually go to a picket line, especially ones that are in more rural areas where you might double the picket line size. If you guys could get out there, I think that that's a very powerful tool. I think another way, if you are not able to do that, or for people who can't, is to do more like online signal boosting things. So, boost the GoFundMe if people have GoFundMes, or strike funds like they were talking about. Share and retweet, good pictures of what is going on at the picket line, to kind of just boost morale from afar. There was some work action, I can't remember what it was, but we organized showed our support from afar by, asking our members to take pictures, take a selfie with you, and, write something like solidarity or something like that with the workers, like on a piece of paper, and tweet it with this hashtag, stuff like that, that just kind of shows how many people and how far reaching the support is. Because when you're on strike, it means a lot that people are even aware. I've been on picket lines where people are surprised that I even knew what they were or that they were on strike. I think that support can go really far. And if it's possible to find, you know, a local target that you could put pressure on, if that's political or just, you know, logistical, you know, do shipments that are going to this warehouse that are on strike, where do they go through? Can you find out? Are they unionized? You know, during the Nabisco strike, there were actions at grocery stores because they were obviously purchasing what that was. Things like that. It may not be possible everywhere, but if you could map out, you know, the power relations with the union, with the boss, with, you know, whatever exists in your area, you might find something that might be a really unique opportunity. The other thing I want to talk about is what happens after the strike, which I think can, especially if the strike is short, I think it can be nearly as important work as supporting the strike itself, especially because strikes happen with such short notice sometimes, rightfully, that if you are in a chapter that doesn't have a lot of infrastructure already to support strikes, you might not be ready. You might not be ready to go out there, and you just have like, oh, we've got a member and they're, you know, they're right next to the picket line and they're there every day, and that's how we're getting our information, which is awesome. But if that doesn't, if, you know, your strike support isn't what you thought it was going to be, or even if it was, I still think that what happens afterwards is very important. Being on strike, a person who is on strike is changed by that process, whether it ends up good or bad. And there are so many of us who are not in the union, so many of us who, you know, have never been on a picket line, have obviously never been on strike. And giving the people who were on strike a chance to tell their story about what it was like to, you know, to feel powerful, to take their labor away, to see their boss squirm. It is incredibly inspiring. And I think that they can also, you know, talk a lot about the organizational, you know, positives or negatives that were happening within their union or within the community that, you know, maybe change something about, you know, the morale or how long they felt like they could stay out. I think also internally, again, on this, I'm just going to keep like repeating myself. I think that talking with other parts of DSA chapters about strikes, you can still do that after the strike, not just to get turnout, but then afterwards to keep your chapter ready for the next one is to talk about what was learned from the strike. Have, you know, workers there, if you can, to talk about what it was that happened, how, you know, how the negotiations went, what it was like to be out on strike. It can be a very powerful tool to then start talking about the next contract fight, talk about the next, you know, big public sector contract that's going up in your area soon, or whatever it is. By continuing to, you know, debrief and analyze what happened, you can keep people ready and just aware that strikes may pop off, which will make them more ready, just to get out there on the picket line. It will be a normal thing for them. Yes, go ahead.
All right, that brings us to the end of the presentation, but don't forget that we are going to have Q&A. But there's a lot for y'all to do next. At the beginning of this call, we shared the strike support survey. Please fill it out. If you think that your chapter might need support for strike support ever, go ahead and fill it out. Give us the information that we need. This is a Oh yeah, great. Thank you, Emily. So make sure that you fill it out. Also, there's going to be a strategy call on Monday. And this strategy call is for chapters that are currently working on a strike solidarity campaign. So that could include chapters that have a strike going on in your area right now. It could include chapters that want to do strike solidarity for chapters that are relatively nearby or even far away. But you know that other chapters near you are working on strike stuff and you want to figure out how you can help them. And it could also include chapters that know that strikes are coming up. There are, it's possible IATSE will go on strike. It's possible Kaiser is going to go on strike. It's possible that any workers in your area, symphony workers in San Antonio are on strike right now. Another thing people don't know about is like here in Houston, we have steel workers that have been out for, it's close to a year now on a lockout. On like basically a capital strike, and they've been bringing in scabs. So like there's a lot of different work that isn't necessarily just like the John Deere and Kellogg's work that you might have seen more in the news that might happen locally. So if you foresee that you'll be doing a strike in the near future, this might be a good call for you to get on. So essentially it's going to be a spot where chapters who are currently doing the work can share highlights from their campaigns. People can talk about tools and resources that they've used to engage their members, ask for tools and resources to engage members, and then also make plans about how we can coordinate regionally, how we can coordinate nationally to make sure that our work is super effective. So we will be sending out that Zoom link to everyone who fills out the strike solidarity survey. So make sure that you get that filled out. Again, you should always be able to like work with your field organizer if you have questions that are really specific and nuanced to your chapter. A lot of times people kind of forget that y'all can just set a call with us almost any time. You can reach your field organizer by emailing their first name at dsausa.org. And if you don't know who your field organizer is by first name, you can email me because I work with the team at amy@dsausa.org. Again, here's the compliance information. Make sure that you ask all of those good compliance questions you may have to Brandon, and then you also check our compliance guide. And then last but not least, Laura, who's on this call, wrote a guide for chapters doing strike solidarity, and we have posted it on the DSLC website. So here you go. So make sure, be in contact with your field organizer, fill out the strike support survey, be on the lookout for other resources that are coming your way, and let us know if you have any questions or anything that you need. That's it that I have on next steps. I'm going to turn it back over to Christian for Q&A. So those of you who don't have questions or don't want to listen in, you are free to go. You get 17 minutes of your evening back because we finished a little early, but hopefully y'all all brought your best questions and hopefully we'll have great answers for you. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen.